What is up everyone, this is Mabel HQ, the pro gamer, and I'm back with more God of War videos for you guys. Alright people, before we start, I want to make a quick pause and offer an apology for not uploading more commentary videos for the past month or so. You see, my house was undergoing remodeling and there was a lot of noise throughout the day that didn't allow me to record more videos with my voice. Or rather, I didn't want to record myself in that kind of environment because I felt it could have resulted in videos with very poor quality, and yeah, that would have been underwhelming, and that's not the kind of content that I want to put out for the channel. So for the time being, I had to resort to only making gameplay videos and live streams, and we actually managed to do plenty of cool stuff during that period of time, like beating all the master levels on Ultra Nightmare in Doom Eternal on console and playing some God of War 3 and 4 on the hardest difficulty. I would really recommend you check those bots out. But yeah, now that issue with the remodeling of my house is out of the way and I'm back on full strength to making more commentary videos. So yeah guys, before this semi-hiatus on my channel, we were kind of making a habit of responding to horrific God of War Ragnarok reviews. So an idea came to my mind. Why not respond to another one? I actually got some people recommended me to check this video we're gonna be talking about today in the comments of one of my previous videos. And it did turn out to be a video that definitely caught my attention, so yeah, shoutouts to DIY and V Chikosi for recommending me this video. Alright, now I think it's about time that we address the video in question. Today we are gonna be taking a look at Endymion's God of War Ragnarok review. Okay guys, so first of all, I don't think Endymion is a bad guy. I don't think he's an insufferable idiot that treats other people like drug addicts that need professional rehabilitation and psychological help just because they are better than him at a video game like Synthetic Man. And neither do I think he's a jerk that thinks his life is miserable just because he has to play a video game on stream like ENDYMIOn. But at the same time, I have to stay true to my principles. And one of my principles dictates that if I see bullshit, I have to call it out. And oh boy, there is a lot of BS to call out on this one. He comes across an awful lot like an Elden Ring fanboy, and I'm not sure if he just doesn't understand God of War or he doesn't like hack and slash games in general. But much if not all of his criticism concerning God of War Ragnarok doesn't make any sense. Anyways, like I said, I actually think he's a cool guy that is very passionate about what he does and is actually likable and respectful towards his audience. So I don't think he deserves to be hated or ridiculed for his hot takes. I'm gonna try to keep my criticism of his video as constructive and civil as I possibly can. And yeah, let's get started with this.
What's up everybody, it's Endymion, and I have finally completed the story for God of War Ragnarok. And I think it perfectly encapsulates everything wrong and boring about the modern AAA gaming industry. After around 40 hours with the game and having beaten the story and done 95% of its side content, I have to say that God of War Ragnarok made me feel empty.
Okay, that right there is a big yikes for me. It took him around 40 hours to basically beat this entire game. That's wild, dude. Let's actually take a look for a moment at the save of my first playthrough of this game. I was playing on the hardest difficulty and it took me around 75 hours to beat this game. This time that we see here includes the time spent on cutscenes, being stuck on some puzzles, and struggling against some of the most difficult bosses. And with the addition of the new game plans for God of War Ragnarok on its latest update, I actually beat this game again very recently. This time already knowing how to solve all puzzles, being able to skip cutscenes, and having a considerable understanding of the game and how to beat every enemy and boss. And even then, it still took me around 55 hours to beat the entire thing again. I know it says on the screenshot that it took me around 60 hours, but that's because I've spent a few extra hours trying out the different builds and experimenting with the combat system after finishing the game. But anyways, the difference in time that it took Endymion and I to finish the game is quite something to think about, huh? Could it be that Endymion is actually a god gamer in secret that can beat every boss and solve every puzzle in the game in a matter of seconds, even when playing on the hardest difficulty? Well, no, unfortunately that's not the case. Judging by his gameplay footage, I'm inclined to believe he was alternating between Give Me Grace and Give Me Balance, which are basically the easy and normal difficulties of this game. I can't help but to believe that Endymion rushed the hell out of his playthrough in this game. He didn't really give this game a fair chance considering how little time it took him to beat it and that he was playing on some of the lowest difficulty levels. Great part of the appealing of this game is in this challenge that it can provide to the player on the hardest difficulty levels, and how deep and complex the combat system is. It's extremely cool and satisfying when you actually learn about all the possibilities and approaches that the combat system of this game gives to the player, and how mastering said systems allows you to beat any fight and encounter no matter how tough it can be. So yeah, basically Endymion didn't put much effort into learning this game and just rushed through it as fast as he could. Hell, even my brother, who is a very casual gamer, took around 55 hours to beat the game on normal all the way through.
Ragnarok not only feels less like a sequel but an expansion to the 2018 game, but I genuinely believe that Ragnarok plays it way too safe as well.
Alright, maybe the part about the game playing it too safe could be true, but I would need him to elaborate on that further. And as for the game feeling like an expansion or a DLC instead of a sequel... Seriously, what the fuck, man? What does that even mean? Like, what were you even expecting to begin with? Let's keep in mind that he actually doesn't expand on what he was expecting for a sequel. And just a heads up here, Endymion loves Elden Ring. He likes comparing everything to that game to the point where he genuinely sounds like a fanboy. And we're gonna see later on that he's going to compare God of War Ragnarok with Elden Ring a lot, so I might as well start doing some Elden Ring comparisons too. Like for example, how come you complain that God of War Ragnarok feels too similar to its prequel, but at the same time you are so in love with Elden Ring, which is basically Dark Souls 3 with a jump button and a horse? It's kinda weird that you bring this up when you never criticized Elden Ring for feeling almost identical to one of From Software's previous titles. But yeah, I have to wholeheartedly disagree there. God of War Ragnarok actually feels like a sequel. The game actually brings plenty of new stuff and changes that make it feel fresh, like the new rage system, the new shield system, the new combo system for the blades and the axe, the drop near spear, the sigil arrows. There is plenty of stuff, dude. I think this feeling that you have about Ragnarok being just an expansion could be due to how much you rushed your playthrough.
None of these games, whether it's God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, any Ubisoft game ever, or Call of Duty for example, feels as if they're willing to push the medium forward in any new way.
Alright, I just don't understand what he's trying to get at here. Like, he's putting these games together that don't have a lot of things in common, like for example God of War Ragnarok and Call of Duty that are completely different games, and well, I just don't see how is this supposed to prove that they aren't pushing the medium forward. Maybe if we compare Horizon with God of War it makes a little more sense, but at the same time it doesn't work either because they are not the same type of game, God of War Ragnarok being a semi-linear, semi-open world, and Horizon being a fully fledged open world. This is just a very confusing example.
But when I played through Ragnarok, it felt less like I was on an adventure and more like I was on a tour through a theme park. Like every moment I tried to explore the world the way I wanted to, I was constantly met with areas I couldn't access.
I mean, that's because that is the style of the God of War franchise. God of War has always been linear. You are supposed to fight your way through a level filled with enemies and puzzles until you arrive at the boss and then you fight the boss. That's how it is, and there's not really anything wrong with that. Even the modern God of War games that give the player a lot more room for exploration still retain a big sense of linearity, because exploration has never been the focus of God of War. The focus has always been the combat and the challenge.
Enemies who had ranks to them which barred me from overcoming them.
Alright bro, I'm sorry but that's just a big lie. How come you are barred from defeating an enemy with a higher rank than yours? I have plenty of footage of this game in my channel proving that you can beat any enemy or boss even if they are 2 or more ranks above you on the hardest difficulty. If I can beat 100 enemies in a row while being 2 ranks below all of them on the hardest difficulty, you should be able to defeat 3 or 4 enemies that are above your rank on normal or easy without any problems, so come on dude, that's just completely false.
And it felt like I was on a leash being led by developers instead of truly exploring the game the way I wanted to.
Okay, yeah, but again, exploration is not the focus of the game, my dude. The focus is on the combat. You should be trying to explore how deep the combat system is and all the agency and expression that it provides you, not trying to explore a linear level that was designed with the idea of presenting combat scenarios to you.
You can always feel the hand of the game's developers on your shoulder because whenever you try to have your own agency as a player, your immersion is broken because you lack the right equipment or skill in order to progress. But the problem is that if you want that equipment or skill to do something, you can't just go and get it. Instead, it's given to you at certain points in the narrative when the developers choose it's time for you to have it.
I mean, it's true that you're gonna find scenarios like that where you are exploring some of the optional areas and you end up having to come back later because you don't have an item that is required to open a door or get past an obstacle. But at the same time, I just don't see what's so wrong about having that kind of level design. I think it's a smart way of reusing the game assets to further encourage the player to explore. Also, it's kind of ironic that he brings this up when pretty much half of Elden Ring's content is also locked behind a story wall. In that game you have to beat at least 2 out of the 4 initial zones in order to be able to proceed to the endgame zones. You could say that even then Elden Ring gives more agency to the player to progress in whichever way they want, but there are still many zones and items locked behind the narrative of that game as well.
There's just never any real surprises in these games anymore. I know when combat encounters are gonna happen because the game's level design will conveniently open in a way to let you as the player know.
Okay, I'm actually very interested in knowing how you managed to tell that stuff like this would happen. Because I for sure got caught with my pants down on parts like this. And there are many instances where you get surprised like this during the entire game. Also, come on dude, what are you even saying at this point? In Elden Ring, if you go through a gate or a door or whatever and then you see an open space, that's a boss fight 100% guaranteed. If you go to a catacomb or a mine and you run into a big door, that's a boss fight 100% guaranteed too. Hell, Elden Ring doesn't even try to hide that you are heading into a fight most of the time, since that game also has this mist thing in a lot of places telling you that there is a fight ahead. So yeah man, that's actually kind of a double standard that you are showing there. God of War Ragnarok sucks because you can always tell when you are heading into a fight, but Elden Ring? Nah man, that game is great. It tells you 90% of the time when you are heading into a fight. It's so cool.
You are also aware of when you're safe because the developers will strip you of your agency and force your character to walk slowly.
Dude, that's just a cutscene. Don't think too much about it. You can continue playing the game as normal after the cutscene. I think the real issue that you should be bringing up here is that even after the addition of a skip cutscene option in the latest update, you still can skip parts like this, which, I'm not gonna lie, is horrible. But yeah, this type of argument that you are making here makes me think that you are looking way too hard into things.
And they even go as far as to disable your use of weapons because, like I said, you can constantly feel that sweaty hand on your shoulder gripping you at every moment.
Yeah, that's so tragic, man. You can't match the buttons on your controller in very specific parts. You know where I have seen that same thing happening before? You guessed it. Dude, what's going on? Why can't I attack on this room? Why can I attack out here but not in this room? Are you telling me I'm safe here? Come on, From Software, what is this? Where's my player agency, dude? Bro, this game sucks. No agency, no player choice. No fan? I want my money back.
My other major problem with Ragnarok and really most AAA games is how they feel the need to present their stories like traditional movies. And this leads to one particular game that genuinely feels like the antithesis to what Ragnarok is, and that's, surprise, Elden Ring. The difference between Elden Ring and Ragnarok is that Elden Ring actually feels as if it gives you player agency. And in a lot of ways, Elden Ring feels like the anti-AAA modern game to me. I mean, you can skip major bosses or entire areas like Stormvale or Rhea Lucaria if you want to.
Okay, again, my issue with this comparison he's making here is that he's forgetting that Elden Ring and God of War Ragnarok are not the same type of game. Elden Ring is a full-blown open world, and God of War Ragnarok is a semi-linear, semi-open game. They are supposed to work in different ways, so of course you're not gonna have the same degree of exploration and freedom in both games, because they were made with different ideas in mind. And I say different because none of them is a superior ideology. They are just different ideas that are supposed to work in different ways. Also, on a side note, I think it's important for any game to present its story in a cohesive enough way. Whether it is through cutscenes or exposition and whatnot, but that of course has to be done in moderation so as to not overwhelm the player with too much information. And I say it is important because, let's be honest, story and characters in a game are something that go a long way into keeping you going and playing that game till the end, and even giving it a second playthrough. You can play a game like Elden Ring or Bloodborne from beginning to end and you're most likely not going to understand what the fuck was going on, because the plot is so disjointed and difficult to keep up with that the entire thing ends up feeling like just an excuse to kill monsters.
Elden Ring genuinely feels like the polar opposite to God of War Ragnarok and its many tired game design ideas. Whereas I'm constantly shut off and led by the leash in Ragnarok, I am able to freely explore Elden Ring at my own pace.
Well, yeah, not really. Just like in God of War, the enemies and areas in Elden Ring have a rank system attached to them as well. So let's hypothetically do what he said earlier about skipping Stormvale Castle and the Lucaria Academy, that are basically the first two missions of the game, and then you go to Caelid, that would be like the fourth or fifth mission of the game. I don't know, the scaling in Elden Ring is all over the place and you kinda have to figure it out on your own, but yeah, let's pretend that we do that. What would happen is that you are gonna be like level 20 fighting level 80 enemies that are gonna kill you in one hit, and it's gonna take you like 15 minutes to kill a single enemy, and you are probably gonna hate every fucking minute of it, and you are probably gonna want to delete the game right after. So yeah, what Endymion is doing here, he is kinda overselling the way Elden Ring works, because even though you have more freedom to explore and progress in that game, Elden Ring was also made with a certain order in mind between each zone that you should probably follow. It's not mandatory that you do, but it is highly recommended, because otherwise your experience with the game is not going to be a pretty one.
It also doesn't make much sense in Ragnarok that I'm able to fight Thor early on in the story, a god of thunder who's wielding Mjolnir, a legendary weapon that is the equivalent to a nuclear bomb in Norse mythology. Yet at the same time, I can be two-shot by a random monster because my rank isn't at a level that meets that enemy. The story dissonance here makes zero sense, so you're telling me I can survive Mjolnir to my face, but a Hellwalker or Ogre can kill me instantly because it's rank 5 and I'm what, rank 3? It's just stupid.
Man, come on, are we seriously going to go down this route? Oh boy, this is taking me back. I'm remembering the Synthetic Man review now. No, not like this, please.
Some of them, like the Hateful, are just fucking annoying to fight, have random unblockable moves that make no sense. The fucking God of War can't block a random fire skeleton's X-swing. My immersion is destroyed.
Though this is just such a nitpick and such a silly thing to complain about. This argument is something that can be applied to any game and it would never make sense. Like for example, let's look at Doom Eternal. You play as the almighty Doom Slayer, a warrior capable to defeat titans and ancient gods alike. Wait, what? He can get incinerated to death by a flimsy zombie? What? My immersion is destroyed, this game sucks. The same thing also happens in Elden Ring. We fight Morgoth, the king of Lindale, a demigod, son of Marika the goddess and Guthrie the legend. He has godly powers and I don't know, he's as powerful as he's ugly. I don't know much about Elden Ring lore, but yeah, he's a formidable adversary. In fact, there couldn't be a more fearsome opponent than him. Wait a moment, you're telling me that a flying chicken with 2 knives attached to its legs can kill me faster than Morgoth? This doesn't make any sense. My immersion is destroyed and this game sucks. But yeah, Endymion, dude. Whenever you come up with stuff like this on a review, it feels like you're just trying to blindly hate on a game. And it also makes me think that you were trying your hardest to find anything to complain about more so than actually trying to learn and play the game. So come on, man, you're better than this. The lesson here is that you need to learn when to separate gameplay from lore, because those two don't blend together well most of the time. In most games, and there is nothing wrong with that. That is no reason for criticism at all, because that's just the way video games work. If you die to a flimsy ass skeleton or whatever, but before fighting that flimsy ass skeleton, you defeated a god of thunder, that's just your fault as a player for messing up.
Not to mention, in a lot of these scenarios, you can't progress between rooms unless you kill all the enemies. Meaning, unless you're strong enough by these game developers' design metrics, you just can't progress. Nothing I do matters unless I'm a certain level to face my enemy. My smarts or skills don't matter much, and it's not like I can use my environment to my advantage, because enemies as well as you as the player feel magnetized to the floor at all times.
Okay, no, that's just completely false. Like I said before, I have plenty of footage in my channel proving that you can overcome any fight in this game while being 2 or more levels below the level of your enemies. It's actually the opposite to what he's saying right now. Whenever you encounter an enemy that is above your rank, that's when your skill and wits matter the most. Also, it's kinda funny that he claims that you can't use the environment to your advantage when that's exactly one of the main new features of this game. Most often than not, you can find stuff around in the arenas that can be used against your opponents. Also, these things that he says about the enemy and the player being magnetized to the floor. What the fuck, dude? A good 90% of the boss fights arenas in Elden Ring are just big circles or squares. Not a whole lot of stuff in the environment that you can use to your advantage on those ones either. So it's kind of ironic that he complains about that in God of War Ragnarok, but he's completely fine with the bosses in Elden Ring being the same way. Also, even more ironic is that he complains about fight or die scenarios where you have to win in order to progress, when in Elden Ring many boss fights are also mandatory fight or die scenarios. And Elden Ring is a lot more punishing towards the under-leveled player. In God of War, if you are under-leveled, you can still win by knowing how the combat system works and overall being good at the game. In Elden Ring, if you are under-leveled, you either need an overpowered weapon or skill that can cheese whatever it is that you are fighting against. Because the combat system of Elden Ring is a lot more limited and restrictive, and the overall balance of that game is not exactly great to say the least. So you can't just approach a boss fight with any weapon and pretend that you can win just by knowing what to do if you are under-leveled.
Player agency is a term a lot of AAA gaming developers like to use when discussing their games. They want you to customize your characters, give them cool attacks and nifty trinkets to wear, but they're almost always tied to some arbitrary system like ranks.
Yeah, just like in Elden Ring, dude. Weapons in Elden Ring are tied to stats, and stats are also tied to levels. So the same thing applies for that game. If you're not a certain level, you can't even use the weapon that you want to use. As you can see, he's saying a lot of nonsense here. I actually watched his entire Elden Ring review and he never brought up any of these issues that are also present in that game. This is very inconsistent criticism that feels like a lot of cherry picking, and it also feels very disingenuous, considering that he's making all these comparisons right and left between these two games and arguing that Elden Ring does everything so much better.
In Elden Ring, from the moment you start playing, if you want to, you can just go to Caelid. You can go down to the Deep South and explore whatever the hell you want and just start finding stuff. I mean, sure, you might die, you may even get cursed or abducted, but the fact remains that at the very least, you have the possibility, no, the ability to actually have your own player agency.
Yeah, man, you have the agency of getting one-shotted by everything you ran into. That's so much fun, dude. Anyways.
I'm so tired of these modern games being so safe and so afraid of letting me do what I want in their worlds. In Elden Ring, I can go and stumble upon unimaginable horrors in the deepest caverns because of my own curiosity.
Yeah, but then again, because of your own curiosity, you're gonna run into this unimaginable horror that also has a rank that is probably gonna be a lot higher than yours, and that also happens to be a boss that you need to defeat in order to progress in that immediate area that you are in at the moment, and then you're gonna be barred from defeating that unimaginable horror because of the rank system. You're not gonna be able to progress, and you're gonna feel like you've encountered a wall. Does any of this sound familiar to you? This situation I'm describing is literally what would happen if you went into an area in Elden Ring that you are under level 4, and it's literally what he's complaining about in God of War. Like for example this clip he's showing here. This is an optional boss fight in God of War Ragnarok, and according to him you can get past this encounter if your level is not high enough to do so. And then he's showing fucking Astel, natural god of the darkness or some shit like that, from Elden Ring, which is also a boss fight that you are most likely not gonna get past either if your level isn't high enough. So this is yet another double standard. It's bad if you explore in God of War Ragnarok and you run into a boss that you can't defeat because the boss has a higher level than you. God of War sucks, man. Why would they ever make a boss fight like this? But it's the coolest thing ever if you explore in Elden Ring and you run into a boss that you can't defeat because the boss has a higher level than you. Elden Ring is the shit, man. What an amazing and unique game design.
In Ragnarok, my player agency begins and ends with what runic attack or hilt I want to put on my axe.
That's such a disingenuous thing to say, bro. Come on, there is so much more to play your agency in modern God of War games than just your runic attacks. At this point we are both sounding like broken records, but I'll say it one last time. This stuff he says about the game not having player choice and all that is just the result of him rushing his playthrough, playing on a low difficulty level and not really bothering to actually learn and experiment with the game.
You feel trapped, like you're being led along a path while your agency...
Okay, on a side note here. If I receive a dime every time he said agency in this video, I would be a millionaire by now. Endymion dude, you look into this agency thing way too hard. And the funny thing is that even though you look into it so hard, you also view it in such a shallow way. Because player agency is not all about having level design that allows you to approach it in several ways. Like yeah, having that is good, I'm not gonna deny that. But there is a lot more than that, like for example the depth of a combat system that you are just failing to explore here.
And this leads to another huge problem I have with the modern AAA gaming industry. Their games don't feel replayable. After beating God of War 2018, I have never replayed that game again.
Alright dude, that's just a subjective matter and something that is completely on you. I on the other hand have finished God of War 4 like 5 times already, and God of War Ragnarok I have replayed it 3 times. If anything, I would argue that modern God of War games have some of the highest replay value in gaming due to how good their new Game Plus experience is, and nobody can deny that. If someone wants to disagree with this statement, you better prepare for a slagfest.
Not because its combat isn't fun, but because I know I have to sit through the same cutscenes, the same forced walking segments, and emotional movie cinematic moments all over again.
What are you talking about, man? You can skip the cutscenes after you have completed the game once, and the forced walking sections are at a best like a 5% of the entire game. Come on man, you didn't even try with God of War 4.
You're so trapped and guided by these experiences, and no matter what you do as a player, every one of us will fight Thor the same way in the beginning of the game.
Dude, come on. Thor is the second boss of the game, only like 10 minutes away after fighting Bjorn, the first boss. What were you expecting? To have all 3 weapons unlocked and 50 different skills and runic attacks when being 30 or 45 minutes into the game? I mean, you actually get stuff like that later on, but just not at the beginning. This is the equivalent of complaining that you don't have 50 different weapons to fight 3 Sentinel in Elden Ring the first time you encounter him.
We'll all see the same death animation when we kill a dragon over and over again. We'll all have the same experience because these games are made less to be games and more to be trophy bait when award seasons show up.
Dude, what is this criticism? What is he even trying to say here? This is so weird, man. I mean, by that logic, no game ever has replayability whatsoever. Let's actually apply that same logic to Elden Ring. Elden Ring sucks and is not replayable because no matter how many times we play this game, we'll all see the same dead animation when we kill Morgoth or Mog, and we'll hear the same dialogue over and over again.
I can see it as clear as day.
We'll all have the same experience because these games are made less to be games and more to be trophy bait, so when award season shows up. Man, this is such a bizarre thing to say. Like, you're missing the whole point here, dude. The dead animation that you see at the end of every fight against a dragon, or any boss for that matter, it's just a small detail that the developers added because they thought it would look cool. But that doesn't say anything about the replay value or player agency of a game. What actually speaks volumes about the replay value and player agency is what is right before that. The boss fight itself, in how many ways you can approach the encounter, in how many strategies you can use against the enemy, in how many ways your particular playstyle influences the outcome of the fight. That's what you should be speaking about, not ranting about a 10-second dead animation that plays at the end of the fight. Like, I don't get it, man. Why would you ever bring this up?
Like, there's one section in Ragnarok, relax, it's not much of a spoiler, where you're playing as Atreus and you're just collecting fruit with your friend as they just talk. And you literally just go around this forest collecting fruit as they vomit exposition at you. The Ironwood segment of Ragnarok is the epitome of what's wrong with modern AAA games these days.
Okay, he's talking about the Ironwood section now, and I have to agree. That fucking sequence is awful. Santa Monica Studios deserves all the hate that they get from people annoyed by that bullshit. It really is a horrible part that keeps the game from actually being perfect, but at the same time, that part that he's talking about, it's only like 10 minutes long, and everything else in the Ironwood section is alright, so in the big scheme of things, it's not really that big of a deal.
Why do you think Aloy in Horizon Forbidden West never shuts up? She's constantly talking out loud to herself. She literally says how to solve puzzles constantly. I mean, Atreus and Mimir do this too in Ragnarok. Because it's the developers openly saying that they do not trust you to figure out anything.
I mean, not really, that's not what happened in my experience. The first time I played this game, I actually got stuck numerous times in several puzzles for long periods of time, and that actually sucked big time. I don't know, dude, it's just fucking puzzles. I hate that stuff. In my opinion, if puzzles are not the focus of the game, they should give you as many hints as they possibly can to get past that stuff quickly. Puzzles are actually something that is very dependent on the individual. I, for example, don't find them particularly fun, so I'm honestly completely fine if they wanna help me solve them.
And games like God of War, The Last of Us, Horizon, whatever the hell is out there, they all praise themselves saying, look at all of our accessibility options, and I'm like, all these accessibility options, and yet none of them let me have my own goddamn agency. I mean, God of War doesn't even let you climb unless it's a specific place where the devs want you to do it. All of this rock and wall, but you can only climb where the white paint is. I mean, is this 2007? Hello, can we please move on from this?
My dude, again, you are missing the whole point here. The focus of God of War has never been exploration. The focus has always been the combat. Adding an option to grapple onto walls or jump over rocks on a highly linear game like this one does nothing to improve it. I mean, you have that kind of stuff in Elden Ring because the focus of Elden Ring is exploration, but God of War on the other hand might not have that kind of stuff, but it more than compensates for it with a more complex and deeper combat system and level design that emphasizes that combat system. So yeah, the thing here is that you are failing to see that these two games just have different goals in mind.
Look, God of War Ragnarok has really fun combat. It's enjoyable to slice dudes into ribbons and make confetti out of some poor guy's body when I explode him with the Blades of Chaos. It's fun that there's tons of stuff to find, the voice acting is good, and I enjoy the way the game looks. These are not the problems here, but for the love of God, for the love of everything that exists in this mortal plane of existence that we call hell, I mean Earth, please stop gripping our shoulders so tightly.
And that's basically the end of the video. He keeps talking about Elden Ring and some other games for a few more minutes, but we're here for his God of War takes, so let's stop it there. Alright Endymion bro, gotta give credit where credit's due. At the very least, you didn't call this game woke or feminist propaganda, but yeah man, it feels like a lot of the issues that you mentioned in this video were just the result of you rushing your playthrough. And in other instances, like the comparisons with Elden Ring, the things that you say just don't make any sense because a lot of the issues that you brought up for God of War are also present in Elden Ring. Speaking about Elden Ring, by watching this and other videos in your channel, I get the feeling that you use that game as your point of reference way too often, and I think you have to stop doing that bro, because not everything needs to be Elden Ring, like come on man. Overall, this wasn't a good review dude, it was bad, like pretty bad, which is surprising because I actually felt that you did a good job reviewing Elden Ring, but this one really fell flat. And yeah, I would highly recommend that you give God of War Ragnarok another shot, this time played in some of the higher difficulty levels. You can also give a try to the new game plus that allows you to skip cutscenes, experiment with the combat system, try different armor sets, trying to max out 1 or 2 stats as much as you can. Don't be afraid to fight enemies that have a higher rank than you. They are completely beatable and make the game more entertaining. Try to find the correct strategies to approach them, and for the love of God, stop comparing this game to Elden Ring dude. They are not the same type of game. And yeah people, that's gonna be all for now. Thanks a lot for watching, let me know your thoughts in the comments, give this video a like and subscribe to support the channel. Also share this video if you found it interesting or entertaining. I actually wanna do a God of War Ragnarok review of my own, and I also feel like giving my thoughts on Elden Ring and making a few gameplay videos for that game, so you can expect a lot more content for this channel very soon. Okay folks, this was MabelHQ, the Pro Gamer, and I'll be seeing you soon.